Let's start with the first round pick. The Niners have one this year, although it's frankly more like a second round pick. So
True.
people
So
thinking
make it
about
a first
maybe
round pick.
can we trade up? Is that possible? And if it seems like everyone pretty much agrees this year, this is a great opportunity to pick the offensive lineman you like the best. What do you think about the Niners trading up for an offensive lineman?
I think they should. You need a replacement long-term for Trent Williams, and you need, in the following year, coming up to the next season, to have bookends at tackles for once. And so I think that makes sense. Tim Kawakami of The Athletic has floated this for a while now, that the Niners are looking for a plug-and-play lineman and moving up in the draft to do it. Some people think that might be Ayuk. I don't think so. I think that it's more of they're going to look at packaging picks. They've got 11 picks. They don't need them all. And so a first and second to Pittsburgh at 20, and then a little bit more change back from the Steelers would work. And then it's a question of whether Amarius Mims drops to 20 or not. If he does, that's a trade worth making.
Now, tell people who don't know who Amarius Mims is who he is. He's
a tackle from Georgia who's just gigantic. In my column for you, I called him Thanos. He's 6'8", 340 with 11 1/4 inch hands, 36 1/8 inch arms, and he ran a 5.07 40.
Oh, okay.
Pretty good.
Wow.
And he's playing in the SEC. The problem.
So he's one of the most athletic big people in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
And so that's why you would want him.
Okay, sure.
So he did have injury problems though at Georgia. He had tightrope surgery on his ankle, so he's only played 8 games. But in those 8 games, he's dominated. Okay. And for somebody that tall, he plays really low, so he has more explosion. He's a player worth having.
Do you feel he's
somebody that could plug in at left tackle once Trent is done too?
Do you feel he's plug and play at right tackle at this point?
Yes.
Okay, that's the question.
It's more a question of his availability. So,
but he was so good at the combine. It's possible he won't be there at 20.
Yeah, he could go earlier. Now, there are some mocks that have him as high as 12. Most of them have him from 17 to 20. And so, if the Niners wanted to move up, that's where it would make sense is get to 20.
I have a couple thoughts on this first round pick. Seems to me that I agree it should be an offensive lineman, but it seems also like this is a golden opportunity to take a tackle. It sucks drafting for need, but it's hard to say you can get it's hard to take let me try this in English. It's hard to find a plug and play offensive tackle after round 1. A guy that you're going to play as a rookie on a team that's supposed to win the Super Bowl. You kind of need to take that guy in round 1, whereas you can find good offensive guards, centers, interior offensive linemen later. So I feel like this is, you almost have to.
Yeah, and it's not just first round; it's top 20 usually of the guys that can start. And so
that's what I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah. Okay.
There's supposed to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. That's good news for the 49ers.
Absolutely.
There's also supposed to be a whole lot of wide receivers going in the first round. That's great news for the 49ers. Is it possible that 1 or 2 of these plug and play right tackles drops to 31?
No.
I
wish that were
true. Life isn't that good.
No. The problem with that is that there's so few tackles over the past 4 years or so that the NFL is starved for them. And so these guys come along, they're starting tackles, they get taken.
Yep.
So it's tough. Now I think that I've got 5 potentially that could start. So Fuaga from Oregon State, Mims from Georgia, Latham from Alabama, and Fatano from UW. Okay. The other one that might drop is Fashanu from Penn State. He had 8.5 inch hands at the combine, which is a big red flag. It's really small. And as a result, some people have him dropping. Kuiper has him in the mid-20s now, as one example. Not that he's the gold standard.
Right, because when you're holding in the Super Bowl, you want bigger hands when you're holding player.
You need mitts. You need big ones.
Mitts. Yeah.
And that might be a problem. So he could drop. And if so, gives the Niners a chance. So I've got 5 tackles that could start day 1. And then the other starting lineman would be Graham Barton at Duke, who could start at center on day 1.
Okay.
So I think that's the 6 that the Niners would be looking at.
So if they stick at 31, they're running the risk of getting a starting guard, starting center, which to me is not the assignment. Although it could help.
No. Well, Barton would help. The starting center is something they need. It's
Yeah.
because what you've got right now is okay in Brendel, but he's also 32, and he's also been okay, but not great. And so I
Also,
think that you
nothing
could use
against
somebody
Colton
like Barton.
McKivitz, but we're just talking about making a bigger investment in the position. It's not like Colton McKivitz has been a disappointment. In fact, I think he's exceeded a lot of people's expectations, my
He's
expectations.
optimized what he can do. It's just that
Well
he's
put.
a late pick. He does what he can.
Well
But
put.
the
I mean,
team has to say it's time to get better there. We need to invest draft capital in that position.
I think so. Especially if the 49ers want to be a team that goes empty backfield a lot. Let's talk scheme. They were empty backfield. They lived in that formation in the Super Bowl. Don't know why, but that's, I guess, where they want to take their offense. That's where Kyle feels comfortable. How he feels comfortable using Brock Purdy. Okay, well then now you need two left tackles essentially. Those open formations.
Yeah.
You want George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey running routes. Great. Well, that right tackle needs to be really, really, really good.
Yeah. 9 unblocked rushers in the Super Bowl as a result of what they're doing. So you got to have better talent in the offensive line if you're going to keep going with empty backfields. You've got to have far more talent than they have now. Nothing against Colton. It's just that he is what he is. He's a late pick.
Yeah. So trade up. You're thinking looking around 20, maybe a little higher. First and second round pick.
Yeah, 20 if you want Mims, and that's probably the lowest he can go. And after that, it's a question of who else falls where. But it gets more difficult to trade up because a lot of NFC teams that want to compete with the Niners are picking in the mid to late 20s, so it's hard to trade there. I think that they could make a trade, though, to 26. Tampa isn't necessarily going to be, they're reloading, they're not rebuilding. So you could make a trade with them to get to 26, but the key is you have to jump up there. Otherwise, you're going to see players you want that are going to leave the board at 26, 7, 8, 9, 30. It's going to be just painful for the Niners to watch all the guys they want leave the board. I think they have to move up.
This reminds me of when they lost the Super Bowl 2019, came back, traded up a few spots for Brandon Ayuk, needed a starting wide receiver, went and got the guy they targeted. So maybe they could do something similar. If Mims, maybe they don't want to, maybe they can't get all the way up to 17, 18. They don't get Mims, but they can trade up to 24, 25, 26, something like that. Is there a second option you would advocate for?
Well,
at tackle.
At tackle, it's who's there. Now, I like Latham also, and he's like 20 to 25.
Okay.
Fautano from Washington is also in the same range. I would prefer Latham of those two. And then it's if Fashanu drops. Because Fautano is more of a movement tackle. He's a little bit smaller. He has a good movement to his game, great feet, but he doesn't necessarily have great power. I think the Niners need power and technique, and you're going to get that with Latham as a big SEC tackle that's been coached up at Alabama.
Yeah, but the Niners are going to take the other guy. Kyle wants movement.
Yeah, he could. And if so, Fautano is still a good option. I think he can still start day one. It's just, for me, I would prefer the bigger, more powerful guy.
Sure. And I think I would too, but knowing Kyle the way I think I do, I think you just the guy from UW sounds like the Niners first round pick, if I had to guess.
Yeah, if they trade up to 26, Fautano might be there. He might not. Some are saying he doesn't go past the Cowboys. They pick at 24. And so if that's the case, then that can be a problem. But I still think that of these 6 offensive linemen, they want one of them. And if they go to 26, I think Barton will be the guy that's the ultimate fallback if all the tackles go, and they might.
Let me check out real quick on CBS where they got. Do they have Fautano at guard?
He can play guard, but at the combine, he proved that he can play tackle. He measured out well. He had 34-inch arms. He moved well. He did okay in power. I think that Fautano sold that he can play tackle. And given who Washington played this year, I think that he proved he's at that level. It's more of guard is that if he doesn't succeed in the NFL, he can bump inside and be great as a guard. But I think real quick, he starts as a tackle.
Here's what CBS has the rankings for offensive tackles. Penn State dude, number 4, Shanu. Number 8, Notre Dame, Joe Alt. overall. 13,
Yeah.
J.C. Latham, Alabama. 14, I don't know how to pronounce these players' names.
Talise Fuaga.
Talise Fuaga, Oregon State. 16, Amarius Mims, Georgia. 30, Tyler Guyton, Oklahoma. So that's right in the Niners spot. You have an opinion on Guyton?
I don't think Guyton is a starter. I don't think he has NFL strength to start day one. He needs to redshirt.
Good to know. He did go to Oklahoma, and I know it seems
They
to me
coach him
that
well.
Andy Reid and the Chiefs seem to trust that
Creed Humphrey,
program.
Wanye Morris last year, they trust the Oklahoma coaching staff.
So,
but they also redshirted him. So then if the Niners want day one starter, they need to go elsewhere, at least in terms of guidance.